Okay, in this discussion, I'll talk about what Maria talked about in her class, well, based on her slides, as I was not there. Talk about the reading that was required before class and after class, and how I can relate my personal experiences to all of this information. So on the first day of class, it seemed like Maria shared a bit about her life and her equity journey. For example, she wrote that she when she first came to America, that she told everyone, I look like all Argentinians. And obviously this, she noted that obviously this is excluding a large part of the Argentinian population, which is indigenous people and people that came to or that were already in the Americas, living there before Christopher Columbus came along. And I have quite a lot of experience learning about indigenous people in the Americas, as I was a research assistant for a professor that studied specifically the Nahuatl language, so Nahuatl, and the Nahuatl people, which is indigenous people in Mexico. And he analyzed contemporary Nahuatl literature, and that was really important for him to discuss how the Nahuatl language is still relevant, obviously, and so many people still speak it. And similarly to the indigenous people all over the world, in Argentina and the United States, the Nahuatl people were and still are oppressed and have suffered oppression, I should say, and they've suffered exclusion in society and been forced to assimilate to learn the dominant language of Spanish. And this kind of ties into what we also have recently read about how the dominant culture or dominant identity in a place tends to convey this oppression, conduct this discrimination against the targeted culture or identity. So, for example, the Nahuatl people would be the targeted identity in the state or in the country of Mexico. Just as there's other marginalized groups in the United States, which also there are Nahuatl people in the United States, so that counts. Yeah, so that's how I kind of connected to Maria's personal story. And before class, she was also wanting us to read a few articles and listen to a few podcasts about the importance of your name and how that is a big part of your cultural identity. And so I think she also talked about that in class and most likely discussed with the other peers about how their name is part of their identity. So for example, for me, I have a Hispanic name, so Estela Acevedo. And before reading these articles and listening to the podcast, I had never really thought or reflected about the importance of a name, honestly. I mean, you're just given it, and sometimes maybe your name will have a special meaning, and sometimes maybe not. But this is dumb. This is not correct. Your name is always important. Especially for me, Acevedo. Growing up, it looks like avocado. So I was just laughing along with people who would always be like, oh, avocado, ha ha ha. And I'd be like, ha, yeah, so funny. And I never thought twice about it. I was like, you know what, don't want to create conflict. Just go with avocado. It's kind of funny. But now thinking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, how disrespectful this is to my great-grandparents that risked their lives to come to this country and brought their last name and managed to pass it down to me and I'm just laughing at it. So that this topic really stuck out to me. So for example, I will read a quote from Zachary Caballero, who we watched a video of one of his poems, and it says he was talking about joking with his friends about his name, Caballero, and he said, "I told myself it was funny and forced to laugh so loud it could cloud a culture." And this, is exactly what it does when you're joking about your name. It's clouding out the whole heritage, the whole culture behind this name. And I just want, because when I was growing up, maybe when I was younger I was more confident, but when I was in middle school and high school, I was ashamed of being Hispanic. I was ashamed of my name. I don't know, I grew up in a white suburb, not too many Hispanic people. Mostly I had friends that had Hispanic maids or Hispanic gardeners, this total stereotype. So I was just trying to distance myself from that identity, which was completely wrong. It wasn't until university that I finally found this pride and this pride for my identity, which is completely sad because being Hispanic is amazing, and it's so I just want to help kids realize at a young age that you should be proud of who you are, proud of your name, for example. And it also surprised me that one of the videos we watched, they talked about teachers propagating this name discrimination, I guess, for example, the teachers would just give the kids a name that was easier to say, quote unquote, maybe more white, because they couldn't pronounce the name of the kid, or they would just mispronounce the name of a student and not think twice about it. And this, for example, is also giving that student an internal, like, they're internalizing this oppression. They're internalizing that, oh, my name is weird. Even my teacher can't say it. This person I look up to, they're not respecting my name, so why should I respect my name? And this is also connected to what we were reading about, is that the dominant culture is repeating over and over and over again their views on how people should think about themselves, making the targeted culture, targeted identity, internalize this self-doubt, this self-hate, maybe, and that is just wrong. Teachers should be promoting people's name, giving them confidence, not tearing them down. Okay, and then after, so that was what we read before class, and what we had been asked to read after class and discuss was the Amend podcast, or the Amend Netflix show, all about the 14th Amendment and its effects and its resistance and its legacy. And one of the most interesting quotes I found in the first episode that we watched is that your shouts of liberty and equality, your sermons and thanksgivings are mere hypocrisy. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practice more shocking and bloody than of the people of the United States at this very hour. So that was minute 1950. And that was a quote by Frederick Douglass during his 4th of July speech. And I think just this, even though this speech was given in 1852, it's still so relevant to today, to our culture, to American beliefs, is we're still supporting genocide. we have been over centuries supporting wars that we were not supposed to be supporting, and maybe now it's more the violence that he talks about and the blood is maybe more subtle, more sometimes maybe implicit bias can be a part of that, but it's still as painful, it's still as violent in either whether it be emotionally or whether it be internally. And for example, the police brutality that continues to occur in our country is definitely an example, a very explicit example of violence and bloodshed that the people of the United States continue to allow to happen. And it was just shocking for me to hear this quote from 1852, like so long ago, just still ring so much truth in today's society. So in conclusion, these are some ideas that I've seen on the slides and in the readings and in the videos, and how I connect them personally. Thank you for listening.